All right, today we're going to dive into a really fascinating concept from our source material. It's called the crystal flame. And it's all about a method for doing something that, let's be honest, a lot of us wish we could do. And that's dissolve the weight of the past. So let's get right into it. You know that feeling, right? That sense that something from way back when, a memory, some old hurt, maybe a pattern you can't shake, is kind of still pulling the strings today. It's like it's holding you back, influencing how you feel and what you do. Well, what if there was a way to consciously, dissolve that influence? That's exactly what we're going to unpack here.
So first things first, let's think about how we usually see the past. We think of it as just memories, right? Things that are over and done with. But the source material we're looking at today asks us to consider a pretty different idea. What if those past experiences aren't just memories? What if they create these very real, almost tangible burdens that we're carrying around with us right now?
And this is where we get to this core idea of solidification. The source suggests that those really intense emotional experiences, they don't just fade away over time. Instead, they can actually crystallize inside of us. They harden into these patterns that kind of keep us stuck in old loops, and a lot of the time, we don't even realize it's happening. This idea leads us straight to the central metaphor for this whole technique: trauma crystals. It's a pretty powerful image, isn't it? So let's really unpack what these so-called crystals are, and more importantly, how they might be showing up in our lives, sometimes in really subtle ways. So, to be super clear, we're not talking about some actual physical object here. A trauma crystal is really just a way to describe a dense, knotted-up bundle of old emotional energy. Just imagine an intense experience that never got fully processed or released. It doesn't just vanish. According to this way of thinking, it solidifies and becomes a kind of emotional blockage that gets lodged deep within our system. Okay, so how do you even know if you have these crystals? Well, they might feel a lot like things we've all experienced. You know, that recurring negative thought you just can't seem to shake, or that sudden burst of an emotional reaction that seems to come out of absolutely nowhere. That feeling of being perpetually stuck. The source suggests these could actually be the vibrations of an underlying crystal making its presence felt. Okay, so we've identified the problem, right? These dense knots of old energy. But here's where it starts to get really, really interesting. The source material doesn't just leave us with the problem, it offers a profound and actually surprisingly simple tool for transformation. And guess what that tool is? It's your very own consciousness. Yep, the tool is, quite simply, you. Or, to be more specific, it's your pure observing awareness. The source uses this incredible term, the dragon self, to describe this deep, powerful, almost primordial part of your consciousness. Just think of it as the part of you that is pure presence. It's that silent observer that exists before all the thoughts and stories and judgments start piling on. And this slide, it just perfectly lays out the difference. On one hand, you have your everyday mind. That's the fixer. It's always analyzing, judging, living in the past, or worrying about the future. It gets all tangled up in the problems. But then you have pure consciousness, that dragon self. It's totally different. It doesn't try to fix a thing. It just observes, it accepts, it's totally present. It's like being the calm, clear sky that holds the storm instead of being the storm itself. Getting this distinction, that is the absolute key. So how do we actually use this? How do we apply it? Well, that brings us to the method itself, the crystal flame technique. This is the practical, step-by-step guide for using that pure consciousness, that inner dragon, to dissolve those blocks we've been talking about. It really breaks down into 4 simple steps. First, you identify the crystal, that specific uncomfortable feeling or pattern. Second, you consciously shift into your dragon self, that silent, observing part of you. Third, you bring that focused awareness, the flame, and you put it directly on the physical sensation of that discomfort in your body. And then step 4, this is the hardest part. You just allow it to be there. You don't fight it, you don't try to change it, you just hold it in your awareness and let the flame of your presence do its work. I really want to emphasize this because it's the absolute key to the entire technique. You are not trying to fix the feeling or change it or even understand it with your mind. We always try to fight these things, right? But that just gives them more energy. Instead, you are simply bringing the light of your pure presence to meet it. That focused, loving attention is the thing that makes it dissolve. This whole technique is really built on one fundamental principle. It's not just some clever mind trick. It's about tapping into a core power that, according to the source, you already have inside you. And here it is. This is that principle, laid out in a really powerful quote. The idea is that these crystals, these patterns, these burdens, are, at the end of the day, our own creations. And the Source makes a really bold claim. None of those creations, none of them, can withstand the pure, unfiltered presence of your dragon self. Your awareness is simply more powerful than any pattern you've ever created. So that really just leaves us with one final powerful question. Now that you have the tool, now that you understand the principle behind it, the power is truly in your hands. So looking inward, what old energy, what pattern, what crystal will you choose to meet with the flame